For years, Windows has been the default choice for millions of users around the world, not necessarily because it's perfect, but because it's familiar. The Start menu, the taskbar, the system tray, the way windows snap and resize, all of it is burned into our muscle memory. But by 2026, more people than ever are realizing something important. You don't actually need Windows to get the Windows experience. In fact, some Linux distributions now look like Windows, feel like Windows, and in many ways, work better than Windows ever did. Faster performance, no forced updates, no ads in the Start menu, full control over your system, and zero licensing costs. Today, we're counting down the top 12 Linux distros that look like Windows, but are way better in 2026. Whether you're switching from Windows 10, Windows 11, or just tired of your PC feeling slower every year. Let's start with Linux Mint, which has become the #1 gateway Linux distro for Windows users, and for good reason. Linux Mint with a Cinnamon desktop environment feels instantly familiar the moment you boot it up. You get a taskbar at the bottom, a classic Start menu in the lower left corner, system icons on the right, and a file manager that behaves exactly how Windows users expect. But under that familiar surface, Mint is incredibly efficient. It runs smoothly even on older hardware that struggles with modern versions of Windows, and it doesn't bombard you with telemetry or background services you never asked for. In 2026, Mint is more polished than ever, with better driver management, smoother updates, and a rock-solid base that just works. You can install it, forget about it, and focus on getting things done instead of fighting your operating system. Next up is Zorin OS, a distro that doesn't just resemble Windows, it actively adapts to former Windows users. During installation, Zorin actually asks you what version of Windows you're coming from, and then adjusts the layout accordingly. Want a Windows 11 style centered taskbar? You can have that. Prefer the classic Windows 7 look with a left-aligned Start menu? One click, done. Zorin OS in 2026 feels premium, smooth, and modern, with beautiful animations and excellent touchpad and touchscreen support. It's especially popular among laptop users and creators who want a clean, elegant interface without sacrificing power. And unlike Windows, Zorin doesn't lock features behind paid editions in a frustrating way. The system respects you as the owner of your computer. Then there's Kubuntu, which uses the KDE Plasma desktop environment, one of the most customizable and powerful desktops in the Linux world. At first glance, KDE Plasma can be made to look almost indistinguishable from Windows, especially Windows 10 or Windows 11. The taskbar, Start menu, system tray, window decorations, everything can be tweaked to your liking. But KDE's real strength is how modern and fluid it feels in 2026. Animations are smooth, scaling works properly on high-resolution displays, and performance is excellent even with eye candy enabled. Kubuntu combines this desktop with Ubuntu's stability and massive software ecosystem, making it a great choice for users who want familiarity without sacrificing advanced features. Coming in next is MX Linux, a distro that might not look flashy at first, but is incredibly powerful, lightweight, and reliable. MX Linux uses the XFCE desktop, which can be themed to resemble classic Windows layouts very closely. The result is a system that feels like Windows XP or Windows 7 in terms of simplicity and speed, but with modern security and software underneath. MX Linux shines on older or low-spec machines, where Windows 10 or 11 would crawl. In 2026, MX continues to dominate performance benchmarks for lightweight distros, while still offering user-friendly tools for system management, updates, and software installation. It's proof that you don't need bloated software to have a productive desktop experience. Now let's talk about Pop_OS, which might surprise some people on this list. Out of the box, Pop_OS doesn't look exactly like Windows, but with minimal tweaks, it becomes an incredibly efficient Windows-like system, especially for power users. What makes Pop_OS special is how smart it is. Developed by System76, this distro is designed with productivity in mind. Window tiling, keyboard shortcuts, and performance optimizations are baked right in. In 2026, Pop_OS is a favorite among developers, engineers, and creators who want something that looks familiar enough but works far better than Windows under the hood. And unlike Windows, Pop_OS never forces updates or reboots when you're in the middle of work. Deepin OS is another distro that deserves attention, especially if you care about visuals. Deepin has one of the most polished and visually appealing desktop environments in Linux, and it can easily be configured to resemble Windows 11 with its dock, system tray, and window effects. In 2026, Deepin feels incredibly smooth and modern, almost like a commercial operating system. Animations are refined, system apps are consistent, and everything feels thoughtfully designed. While some users debate privacy concerns, many appreciate Deepin for its ease of use and stunning interface. For Windows users who are drawn to aesthetics and simplicity, Deepin can feel like a breath of fresh air. Next on the list is Ubuntu itself, specifically Ubuntu, with custom theming or the Ubuntu Cinnamon spin. Ubuntu has matured significantly by 2026, and while its default GNOME desktop isn't traditionally Windows-like, the ecosystem around Ubuntu makes it incredibly easy to transform. With a few tweaks, extensions, and themes, Ubuntu can look and behave like Windows while retaining its legendary stability and support. Ubuntu's strength lies in its massive community, software availability, and hardware compatibility. If you're switching from Windows and want the safest, most supported Linux experience, Ubuntu remains one of the strongest choices available. Then we have Linux Lite, a distro that was practically built for Windows refugees. Linux Lite looks and feels extremely familiar, especially to users coming from Windows 7 or Windows 10. The layout is traditional, the menus are clear, and the system includes helpful tools that guide new users through common tasks. In 2026, Linux Lite continues to be one of the easiest Linux distros to recommend to beginners. It's lightweight, fast, and designed to reduce the learning curve as much as possible. You don't feel like you're switching to something foreign. It feels like Windows, but without the baggage. Next up is Peppermint OS, a distro that blends speed, simplicity, and familiarity. Peppermint uses a hybrid desktop approach that feels very Windows-like, especially in terms of navigation and layout. It's incredibly fast, even on low-end systems, and focuses on giving you exactly what you need, without unnecessary extras. In 2026, Peppermint is still a go-to option for users who want a nonsense system that just works. It's ideal for people who mainly use web apps, office software, and media, and don't want their OS getting in the way. Then there's EndeavourOS, which is based on Arch Linux but designed to be accessible. With the right desktop environment, EndeavourOS can look very similar to Windows, but it offers something Windows never will: complete control. Rolling updates mean you're always on the latest software, and performance is top tier. In 2026, EndeavourOS has gained a reputation as the grown-up alternative to Windows for enthusiasts who want speed, customization, and transparency. It's not for absolute beginners, but for users ready to take the next step. It's incredibly rewarding. Coming in strong is EndeavourOS, which, while more macOS inspired, can still appeal to Windows users who value simplicity and elegance. With some layout tweaks, Elementary can feel surprisingly comfortable for former Windows users. What makes it stand out in 2026 is its focus on consistency, privacy, and performance. There are no ads, no tracking, and no clutter. Everything is intentional. For users tired of Windows becoming more like an advertising platform than an operating system, EndeavourOS feels refreshing and respectful. Finally, we have ReactOS, which takes a completely different approach. ReactOS isn't Linux, but it deserves an honorable mention because it aims to be binary compatible with Windows, applications, and drivers while remaining open source. In 2026, ReactOS is still under development, but it showcases just how strong the desire is for a Windows-like experience without Microsoft's control. While not yet a daily driver for most users, it represents the future direction many people want: freedom without sacrificing familiarity. So what does all of this mean in 2026? It means that the idea of being stuck on Windows is officially outdated. Linux distros have evolved to the point where you can get the same familiar look and workflow, but with better performance, stronger privacy, and complete ownership of your system. No forced updates, no license fees, no ads in your operating system. Whether you're a casual user, a gamer, a student, or a professional, there's a Linux distro that looks like Windows and works better than Windows ever did. Switching doesn't mean relearning everything from scratch anymore. It means upgrading your experience. And as more people make the jump, the gap between Windows and Linux continues to shrink, until one day, the question won't be, can Linux replace Windows? But why didn't I switch sooner? If you're still using Windows in 2026 just because it's familiar, Maybe it's time to try something that feels the same, but treats you better.